And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Flying weather for Tuesday morning. A lot of IFR here, Seward Peninsula, up across the northwest interior, all of the Brooks Range on out to the Arctic coast, and then a swath of VFR here to the south from the southwest coast there, right on up into the eastern interior. Along the Alaska Range and southward, conditions lower there with IFR, Copper River Basin, the North Gulf Coast. Another zone here, western Alaska Peninsula, and then some VFR for portions of the central and eastern Aleutians. And then next area of IFR with a system out there to the west, pushing in mostly west of Kiska Island, Chimney-Attu area, and then pretty good IFR over the southeast coast, continues through the afternoon hours, staying IFR there for the Panhandle. Marginal VFR, so some improvement there over the Copper River Basin, North Gulf Coast. Good VFR, northern valleys here, Kobuk Valley eastward there, across the Koyukuk into the Yukon Flats, south to Kodiak Island. So looking at IFR, Arctic coast, portions of the North Slope, north side of the Seward Peninsula. Otherwise, marginal VFR for much of the Bering Sea. Could be a VFR day here for the eastern Aleutians on Alaska, Nikolsky, Dutch Harbor, those areas, and some IFR lingering there for the Alaska Peninsula. And this area of IFR not moving too much by the afternoon, but by Wednesday morning makes a better jog to the east here, overspreading Adak and then Atka Islands by morning Wednesday. Marginal VFR right up to the southwest coast, through the Bering Strait, linking up with some IFR for the western central Arctic coast. Good VFR in the interior now with the cold air in place here, but still some marginal VFR possible. Kodiak Island right on up into the Kenai Peninsula, western Prince William Sound there, and IFR still covering much of the southeast coast. For the afternoon, big improvement here for the Panhandle. As you can see, some VFR breaking out across a fair portion of the area. IFR for the North Gulf Coast, VFR in the interior, again, Kodiak Island, right up until you get to the Brooks Range. Then it's marginal, becoming IFR there for the Arctic coast, west side and the central areas. Big area of IFR out here with storminess pushing into the Bering Sea, coming all the way to possibly as far east as False Pass. And for passes for the Brooks Range, Anaktuvik and Adigan, both looking pretty marginal tomorrow. Gradual improvement from the morning hours, though. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR for the afternoon. Same forecast for rainy and windy, a VFR, especially afternoon hours for all three of those passes. Isabel, same forecast. Mentasta could start out marginal, becoming VFR. Tanita, VFR. Portage, VFR. And for Chilkoot and White, IFR. Looking at the freezing levels here, cold air getting pushed southward, so the surf is well south of the Alaska Peninsula and coming back up toward Adak or so and along the North Gulf Coast. But the free air freezing levels here over the southern southeast coast running about 2,000 to 4,000 feet there, otherwise off the chart out here to the west. And for icing, a couple areas to look at. Big area coming into the western Aleutian, southwest Bering Sea there to about Adak westward to the Komodorskis. Look for some considerable moderate icing out in that area. And the other area here for the central and southern Panhandle below about 12,000 feet. And then for the jet stream, cold upper level low bringing a lot of Arctic air right into the interior here. And so we're looking at a west-southwest jet up to 150, 160 knots blowing across the northern Panhandle. Backside here of the on the upper low here, northwesterlies, 85 to 110 knots there, down across the eastern Aleutians, western Alaska Peninsula. 9,000 feet, again, cold upper low at this elevation. Looks like right around the Kobuk Valley there, the center of otherwise northerly winds, 40 knots on the backside of that, turn westerly at 50, and then back around to the southwest at 45 knots. An even stronger band blowing across the southern Panhandle there is 60 to 65 knots. And for the 3,000 foot winds, ridging here from the Russian Far East right on down through the Bering Sea here to the other center there. Northerly winds along the west coast, 30 to 40 knots, except 55 knots on the backside of this low center just west of Kodiak Island. Pretty light here over the interior. And southwest 40 knots, southern Panhandle, Dixon entrance, and then stronger winds with that front farther out to the west at about 65 knots. That translates to moderate turbulence there, spreading eastward to just west of Atka Island tomorrow afternoon. Also pretty bumpy conditions for the Alaska Peninsula. And up here, maybe the western Seward Peninsula could see some considerable moderate turbulence there. And pretty smooth everywhere else from the Arctic coast into the Gulf of Alaska. Could be a little bumpy, especially early on here. Barren Islands, Kamishak Bay area, as well as the central and southern southeast coast.